was blind, but now I can.
Yeah, calisthenics number 12. Yeah. Fly robotics. Bifocals, my only purpose is to feed the locals. I'm spreading love when I see you and gotta approach you. I see the goodness in you, I wouldn't John Wick you. I know you hustling for your family just to pay the fiscal. I see the God up in you, He bless your physical. While we navigating problems, the world is abysmal. Skip the one up, let's get it to the center. Your house is big as mine, we can always help each other. Affirmation smother, it ain't even cost me a dime to uplift my brother.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Vulnerability is the New Sexy, the safe space for Black men to talk about things relating to them. I'm bringing this to y'all every second Tuesday of the month, so I want y'all to get prepared for it. We're just going to have a panel of therapists, and I want y'all to get y'all questions loaded up. We obviously going to have a topic, but even still, if you got questions for Black male and female therapists, this is the space to ask them. You know what I mean? So I'm always gonna open up the chat for y'all to do that, regardless of what we're talking about. Throw your questions out there, and when we see them, we will get to them. But today's topic, we're taking a deep dive into something that's kind of overlooked in our community. Are we really prepared for emotionally intelligent partners? We say that we are. We say that's what we want. Men and women both think they want a woman that's men want a woman that's whole and healthy, and women want the same thing. But are we ready? So we've seen the conversations on Instagram, and everybody's unpacking what it means to be in a relationship with a man or woman who shows up with emotional honesty, clarity, and integrity. But what does that really require from us as individuals and as a community? So tonight I got another powerful panel of Black mental health professionals to explore the topic with nuance, honesty, and also cultural relevance. It's important. So you got me, and we got Jeannie Johnson, a psychotherapist and owner proprietor of For Love and Psych. And we got my brother, Dr. Sekou Fraser, LPCS, specializing in marriage and family therapy. Welcome to the show, y'all. Really appreciate y'all.
Hey, thanks for having us. It's good to see you.
So let's throw it out there with you first, Jeannie.
Sure.
Let's just, get a good round robin understanding of what we're talking about tonight.
Mm-hmm.
What comes to mind for you when you hear the phrase emotionally intelligent partner, especially in the context of the Black community?
Absolutely. Okay. When I first hear that, I think to myself, a partner who demonstrates self-awareness, so this insight to self and being, a partner who is self-regulated. So if they're having a moment, emotionally, they're at some climax that either suits themselves or doesn't, they can bring themselves back to baseline willfully, intentionally. I think someone who understands themselves, has a sense of empathy for themselves, for other people, and can hold space for those around them when they are in emotional distress or emotional dysregulation of some sort.
You sound like a unicorn. Do you know a lot of them men like that?
I do. I know a lot of men like that. Yeah.
Oh, good. That's
Appreciate them too. And I know a lot of women like that. I have a whole tribe of women who are just like that. And they are some of my
Just hope out there, y'all. I know it's pee and poo all in the dating pool, but sometimes you get some chlorine and clean that out.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Sekou, what do you think? What comes to mind for you when we say the phrase emotionally intelligent partner?
To be first thing that comes to mind is the person has to be self-aware. They have to know who they are. They've taken that time. They put in that work to work on themselves, to know exactly what they want and attract what they want. They are in tune to their partner. They tend to be empathetic. They pick up on things. Things don't have to always be an argument. It can be a good conversation. Out of something bad comes something good because there's a level of understanding that the person has.
What do you mean when you say that?
So more so, couples are always going to argue, bicker, fight.
Mhm.
And we go through our good, we go through our bad. But through some of those conversations of misunderstanding, something good comes out of it because you have two mentally mature people that come together and bring the best out of each other. And they don't enter in looking at each other to tear each other down. They look how they can build each other up. So there's always an opportunity to shine, even through our turmoil.
Yes. There we go.
So, Jeannie, when you think about, I know you kind of ran it over a little bit in your answer to the first question, but specifically thinking about emotionally intelligent men, where's that coming from? Is that
I
me?
don't know.
Anyway,
I think it was because it stopped.
okay. When you
Yeah.
think about emotionally intelligent men, what characteristics or traits and behaviors stand out for you?
Oh, when I think about emotionally intelligent men, I think of a man who communicates assertively, a man who is balanced in his masculine and feminine space, so has as much regard and respect for his intuition that he does for his ability to be productive, his ability to provide. He's a man who asks questions, who is vulnerable and is not afraid to say that he doesn't know the answer. He's a man who is willing to be seen in all of his self, in his full self. So he's willing to be seen in his anger, he's willing to be seen in his frustration, and he's also willing to be seen in his sadness, inside of his pain, and he's willing to be seen in his joy. He's a man who affirms. He's a man who is not afraid to be complimentary to his woman because he understands that pepping her up and seeing her and showing that he sees her and loves her and cares for her, aloud with her in the room and with others watching, is not going to inflate her to the extent that she would leave or guard him, but will create for him a better bond with her, a more trusting bond with her.
Amazing. So I want to play a video, and on the other side of it, with everything that you just said, I want to know if from your experience, I know you said you know a lot of emotionally whole women.
Yeah.
And I'm going to ask Dr. Sekou the flip of all of this too. Are we ready? Are women ready for the kind of man that you just described?
So do you ladies feel like women are seriously ready for emotionally intelligent men?
We're talking about you wanting a man who is tolerant, who regulates his emotions, who also knows how to manage your emotions. But you're also talking about a man who knows how to navigate his sensitivities and everything else when it comes to that. But you have to consider that an emotionally intelligent man is good at cutting people off when he sees that your sensitivities bring too much reactivity. When he sees that you cannot regulate your emotions, when he sees that you have a low tolerance, this type of man that you are asking for is a man who will walk you out the door in a heartbeat if he feels like you are disrupting his peace. If he feels like there's any level of disrespect, because there's a lot that comes with emotional intelligence. So if you asking for that, you got to come with the same level of emotional intelligence as well. Okay?
So before I get to Dr. Sekou, Jeannie,
Sure.
are women ready for that?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to say absolutely. I'm going to say absolutely because women, since the dawn of the ages, have been primed to be introspective and self-aware in a way that I think men have not had to be, because a lot of life has been catered to them in some ways. I absolutely believe that they are ready for that, and especially because we got to speak about community, and I know my community, and I have seen so many women who on so many levels are ready for that and have been ready for that to the point where in I think spending time with those who have not been able to demonstrate that kind of ability, demonstrate emotional intelligence, they have grown almost tired and removed to the extent that now they are like, I'd rather be on my own because I cannot maintain in a world where I do not have a man who can demonstrate these things.
Interesting. I have some follow up on that, but I'm gonna get to Dr. Sekou. I want to know from your perspective, Dr. Sekou, what on the reverse of that characteristics or traits do you see as an emotionally whole woman who is healthy and like what characteristics does that woman bring? Her behaviors stand out for you.
I would say some of the characteristics is a woman who is able to listen, to understand, not just listening to respond, a woman that's nurturing, a woman who does possess that emotional intelligence, that's very supportive. Those are some of the characteristics that I notice when it comes to um, those emotionally intelligent women, because they just have it's just a different vibe or a different aura to them. It's not to just say softer, but it's a very welcoming type of vibe that draws you in as a man, that just makes you just say, hey, I just have to respect her because she presents a certain way and she makes me or allows me to feel vulnerable as a man to just open up because she's always there to support me. So those are some of the characteristics.
So on the flip of that,
Hmm.
brothers ready for that? Are the brothers ready for that woman from your vantage point?
Is this question for me or for the both of us right now?
Listen, I know you emotionally intelligent, man, but I'm like, and I know you're emotionally intelligent too. So
Yeah,
asking y'all from the standpoint of what y'all are seeing,
Mhm.
out there.
and from your clinical lens, especially, like, what are you seeing when
Mhm.
they sit on the couch and they
So,
say they want these relationships?
Yeah.
Are they ready for them?
Mhm.
you know, to be honest, I'll say it's a mixed bag. It's a 50-50 kind of toss up.
Ooh.
People say that they want it,
Uh-huh.
they're not willing to do the work that's required to keep it or maintain it, or even start to do the work on themselves. Because, if you're not ready for certain things, you may ask for it, but if you're not ready and you're blessed with it, you end up fumbling it. It's just like winning the lottery, but you don't know how to manage money.
Yeah.
So you won't have it very long. So that's what I'm saying. It's kind of a toss up, and that's what I see for men and for some women as well too.
You got something to add on that, Jeannie?
I mean, I loved what Dr. Seiko said, that it's a mixed bag. Would I say 50-50? I don't think so. I don't agree. But I definitely would say I made a definitive and very assertive answer initially, but at times it is a mixed bag. I would say more when it comes to the ladies, it's definitely an 80-20 kind of a situation. 80% that they're ready and they have that readiness, and 20% that I see a lot of women who they have they have fallen susceptible to the indoctrination that womanhood automatically makes you akin to nurturing, automatically makes you akin to being supportive, automatically makes you akin to being someone is who values showing up as a partner, and whether that's a wife or a girlfriend or whatever else, when in all actuality you just want a boyfriend to care for you, you just want a husband to care for you, you just want the title because society says you need to seek it, and so they haven't done the work. And I can see it very clearly, but they can't see it very clearly oftentimes. Yeah, they're quite rooted in their delusion. Yeah.
Lending to what you're talking about, I did a podcast the other day, and the topic was about how black women are burning out, right?
Hmm.
And I talked about how historically, we have to go back, all the way to before Jim Crow, all the way to slavery, and think about the hyper independence that was created during that time,
Yeah.
and also the illusion that, I mean, I say it's illusion. Some people argue with me, but I mean, I don't really believe it's true. That I think it's something that what black women have been told over and over and over again, that they have to work 2 or 3 times as hard to be successful,
Yeah.
which feels like the truth, but it all depends on your definition of success. You know,
Hmm.
trying to obtain peace and and living and
Yeah.
thriving instead of surviving, and financial prosperity. What is really the goal? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? You don't have to work 3 times as hard. You just feel like you do because that's what you've been told over and over again.
Well, yeah, and objectively, it has yielded you success, right? I think a part of and we know this as clinicians, right? That whenever someone is embedded in a certain kind of truth, we don't meet them heart to heart, and we struggle to connect with them when we try to deny that that's their truth, right? There are many women who have shown and have shown up, and their way of showing up has been, I've worked 2 and 3 and 4 times harder, and I've gotten to this level, and so I believe that to be true. Like, I know that to be a part of what is going to get me the success I want, and they try to utilize that. They try to plug and play it with relationships, and they are deeply disappointed, deeply, in many ways, I think, harmed by the fact that it doesn't work. It cannot work, because that level of functioning, over functioning, let's call it, consistently runs people away, creates oftentimes an expectation of people that is not a realistic expectation, because it was never realistic, and it was never something that you should have been able to pull off.
Right.
So it's tough.
I think talking about these things and recognizing the historical and generational barriers to emotional intelligence and emotional wholeness. I talked about it for women. Dr. Sekou, do you feel like you can touch on some of those historical emotional barriers that men are going through for wholeness? And Jeannie, I want you to answer too, because I know you see men too. I want both of y'all to kind of talk about some of the barriers that y'all see.
Yeah, I think for men, some of the times, especially within my practice, some of the men don't have the examples. They haven't seen it. So then it's more difficult for them to reduplicate the things that these women are asking for. So it's just even with your podcast about being vulnerable, it's so difficult for a lot of men to just open up to their woman. And this is supposed to be the person that you say you love, you trust, you want to spend the rest of your life with, but then you're so guarded. And that's probably one of the biggest things that I'll see, is that it's just not really having the know-how, or when they do open up, the woman might either shun them or doesn't allow them to really clearly communicate whatever those needs are. So then they get caught in that cycle of, hey, I want to open up, but the way that I'm being treated, or not even being allowed to open up, so I don't feel like I have a voice. So I see it on both sides and both ends, where it's like a revolving door.
Yeah. What about you, Jeannie?
Yeah, I mean, I love what Dr. Seiko said, about this idea of, I want to be something, I just don't necessarily have the real world example of it. I find a huge barrier for men oftentimes is, even if they've seen it on TV or did by maybe a unicorn, as you call it, in their life, they don't see it they don't see it habitually within their communities, right? They're not seeing it so often. So um, it's not something that roots because of that. There are so many things that I can say to a man, and I can say intelligently, and I can say warmly, and I can say from a space of like truly alignment with my heart and my mind, that they cannot hear me. They need the voice of another man to validate that that's what would help them to move forward. They need the voice of a trusted man who they can form and have formed a deep bond with, to recognize that, like, this is something of significance. So I think that's a truth. I think the other thing is, yeah, I mean, really, Dr. Seiko was cooking, as I say. It's having this difficulty with opening up to women in vulnerability, because there's so much fear that you're not going to be heard, or that you're going to be shut down, or that if you're seen in a certain light, in a vulnerable light, it's seen as weakness, and then you can't come back from that. So if she sees me as someone who doesn't have the right answers, she's always going to question me. And then she's questioning me and questioning what I think and how I am. And now, my woman doesn't respect me, doesn't respect my value, and doesn't respect the provision that I bring to the relationship. And I'm not willing to sacrifice that. So I'd rather put up the wall when I don't know. I'd rather not communicate when I don't know, because then I can at least give the veneer that I'm secure and that I understand what's going on and that I know how to navigate these things, even though intuitively she knows that that's not the reality, and that some women punish for that, right? Some women very much punish for silence. Some women very much punish foreign attitude. Some women very much punish and remove themselves if you aren't showing up the way that you want them, that they want you to, and that's very difficult because punishment is it's tough to come back from.
Yeah, I mean, talking to both of y'all, assume Dr. Sekou first. We talking about vulnerability, right? I remember when I was naming this show, right, and I was sharing the name of my show with other men. First of all, for me to even name it that, I felt uncomfortable just doing it, right? Which is why I chose the name, because I was already uncomfortable with saying that out loud, and so you could tell I wasn't necessarily in an emotionally whole space, but I was trying to get there, right? I had good intentions on getting there, so I'm like, okay, this makes me comfortable to say out loud, but I'm gonna do it. As time going on, I've grown proud of that I named it this. Vulnerability is the new sexy. But I tell other men about it, and they, their first instinct was to like laugh at me or make fun of me. You know what I mean? Because they're not comfortable with that language, right? A lot of men are uncomfortable with that language now. Obviously, now getting the more and more I get into these spaces as a professional and a clinician, I'm around more emotionally intelligent men. But prior to this, you know what I mean? Like this ain't your circle. You know what I mean? Your circle's built different. So the things that you're saying, how you're showing up is different. And then blending to the stuff that Jeannie was talking about, completely lost my train of thought. But I do want to say, like, yeah, I do know what I want to say. I wanted to ask you and also Dr. Sekou, even with good intentions, right? Women want to build every good intention woman wants to build an emotionally safe space for a man, right?
Yeah.
And even they throw that stuff sometimes back in their faces, not knowing and understanding that that's what they're doing. I saw a clip and I wish I would have saved it where this woman was talking about, yeah, I want him to be vulnerable because I want him to break down and talk about all the things. And then when he does it, I'm a problem solver. I'm gonna go in there and we're gonna solve. I'm like, I think you missed the point, sis.
Right.
You don't. That's not. You jumping in and solving a problem is not the solution to what is happening here. You know what I mean? So even with good intentions, right? Women want to just jump in and create safe spaces, but they're not doing it, and it's not even their intention. So I guess, how do you create a safe space for men to be vulnerable if you are a woman?
Was that to me?
That's to you. I want to know what you think. I'm asking both of y'all.
But yeah, absolutely.
I have different perspectives on it, right?
I'm in the business of obviously my business is named for love and psych, so you know where I'm at. I'm always in the space of pushing for and hoping for and like rooting for people to use heart space. Heart space is so different when it comes to connecting and allowing someone to show up vulnerably.
You're saying hard or hard?
Heart space, yeah. And to distinguish those two things, right? There's us in logic, right? There's us in the cerebral, and that's that problem solving that you were just describing, right? This idea that like my man's gonna open up to me, and then I'm gonna like solve all his problems for him because I'm so smart and I'm so cunning and I'm so I have this great balance between being logical and implementation. So it's great, but that is headspace. That's all headspace. And like as far as men are created, as long as men have been created, I think a big part of what they show up as and what they enjoy showing up as is problem solvers themselves, is being productive. That is a part of their makeup and their being. So when you try to meet them on that space, a lot of what you're doing is challenging them in a space that's where they're comfortable and that's where the walls are. So when we take it to heart space, we take it to the space of like, I'm feeling this, I'm experiencing this in my body when you're talking to me. I'm watching you. I see you. I see the way you move. I'm seeing the way you breathe. I'm seeing and feeling your heaviness. I just want to know, tell me what's up. Tell me what's going on with you. I want to hear about it. I think that is a very different approach than when you come with the cerebral. Like a man tells you something's going on and you go, well, why would that be happening? He's right into headspace immediately. Now he's got to get an answer for you. Now he's got to think with his brain to organize himself and explain himself. But if someone's going on, he tells you something's going on and you say, oh my gosh, I feel I feel terrible that's happening for you. You seem overwhelmed. You seem frustrated. I hate that you're in pain. Tell me more about this. Tell me more about what I can do to be there for you in this.
Yeah.
How can I help you move through it? You see how that's totally different?
Right. Questions.
Yeah.
You're asking questions, guiding questions, trying to create a map for understanding, is what I hear.
Mhm.
Unfortunately, sometimes I know brothers that look at those good intentions and those questions and take it as a threat. Like, like what you mean you trying to listen to me? Like, I don't know what that is because I've been ignored for so long, right? Like, I mean, seriously, like my feelings have been disregarded in society for so long. So when somebody comes along and is actually trying to listen, it feels honestly like a threat, because it's a setup. Like you're setting me up to take me down and throw this back in my face.
Yeah,
Um,
that's
and
true.
those are the kind of things I'm working with.
Hmm.
What about Dr. Seiko, are you working with brothers like that? Do you see that? Have you experienced that? Like, what's your experience with that, bro?
You know, in my practice, I don't have a lot of brothers that are in that space, or a lot of men, just in general, that are not in that space because the men that are there, they are willing to come in to make things work with their spouse.
Right.
I do come across a few of them. There are a couple of them that are rough around the edges,
Hmm.
where I have to explain to them, it's like, in order for y'all to get on one page, you have to be willing to open up and be vulnerable. And not everything is an attack because it depends on their experience. It depends how they were reared and how they view a certain type of person or their partner. But I want to piggyback off of what Jeannie was saying. And it's more so about, if you create that soft landing space for a man, it's just easier just to open up. So it just kind of disarms that person. It's like, for example, if you have a meeting and you go to a meeting, the room smells good, you got lunch, you're just more open to just being more receptive to whatever the training is about. So it's about creating and fostering that environment for men to open up, and also for women to open up too, because we all come from different walks of life and have different experiences. And then just being curious about your partner too, and being
Yeah,
supportive.
Hmm.
100%, man. Jeannie, are we dealing with, in black men and black women, two demographics that prioritize survival over thriving? Are we dealing with that?
Yes, we are dealing with that, unfortunately. And we are dealing with that for good reason. And those coping mechanisms were formed for good reason.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are dealing with that in a
Okay.
major.
So, both of y'all are doing the work, right? I
Yeah.
mean, how do we shift? Like, how do we shift these mindsets
Hmm.
from survival to, to a path of peace,
Hmm.
and a different understanding of what success actually is and what it looks like, so that we can come together and be whole. Because
Yeah.
is that survive? First of all, is that surviving keeping us apart?
I think sometimes, yeah, I think that because surviving instinctively is this measure that we oftentimes bring to like self has to be the savior, because what created that instinct was an abandonment. Um, so when we're thinking about those who, you said, how do we sort of undermine this, right? So I want to answer that question too in its fullness, because it's just such a layered question, Joe. Goodness. But I think that we move through those things, we conquer them when we honor the version of ourselves that needed to exist in survival mode. It's so interesting because I was just talking about this to a black man today, and it was a very difficult session. And this is someone I worked with for a long time, and I've seen evolve through so many things, like a lot of troubled instincts that he used to have. That they were formed out of deep trauma, right? And I
Right.
said to him today, because he was saying he just had a son, and it's a beautiful thing. It was a lot of work to get there. And he was saying how he didn't want his son to be like him in his worst. And I remember working with him in his worst. And I said to him in that moment, I said, you know, I can understand where you're coming from, but I just want to take some time to honor the version of you that existed then. Because that version was a flippin' warrior. That version brought you to a space that was pretty incredible. It aligned you with some really beautiful things in your life. Did it struggle? Was it struggling to get to the next level? Absolutely. And did we have the opportunity to put resources into that and to create the version of you that exists today? Absolutely, we did. And it was a privilege. But that man held so much, and he started bawling because I think we forget to hold space and compassion for that part of us that was in survival mode and for how far it did indeed take us. I did a lot inside of my survival mode before I then had to challenge and say, I'm hitting a wall and I'm not connecting the way that I want to. And I don't feel attuned and aligned with who I really truly am at spirit. I need more. I want more. I'm capable of more. It took a lot, but the version of me that did what they did, I mean, she ate so much. Like, we need to honor that first and not villainize it, not demonize it, so that we can be open and we can share that and then move and progress into our newer versions where we are thriving and doing the things that align with love and with purpose, right? I think we all too often demonize the person who is in that survival mode, who's hardened, right? Who's protective, who I don't trust what you say the first time you say it, or the second time, or the third time you say it, because everybody before you has let me down and I'm gonna do it myself. I got this. She and he, they are beasts for a reason, and they take us real far. So we need to honor that first. I'm sorry, that was very long-winded, but
It's good. It's good. It's important. That's why I ask these questions, because I want people to know. I'm asking the questions that people don't think to ask, but they need to know, right? Because you don't know the right questions to ask to get you to where you want to go. Sometimes, Dr. Vibe, I really want to answer this for you, but I need you to clarify this for me. So please clarify this question, brother, and I will answer it, or I'll have one of these brilliant people answer it. But I asked Jeannie, Dr. Sekou, if that survival is keeping us apart. I'm gonna ask you the flip side. Is that same survival keeping us together, but in a way that doesn't allow for us to be honest uh, and vulnerable in our relationships because we are just trying to survive and don't want to rock the boat?
Yeah, I think sometimes it does. Sometimes folks are just going along to get along. Sometimes folks are just afraid of being alone. So it's better to be with something that's familiar, that you're comfortable with, than to be without. And it's just, I see that. I see that people do want to have happy, healthy relationships, but I see the challenges of certain cycles of just going through the same old, and we're just staying afloat. And then you get to a point where you have to make a decision of, do I look inwards to take care of myself or just remain stuck in this negative pattern? So if you want to thrive, sometimes you got to cut that person off, or you need to remove yourself from that situation so that you can really just work on yourself, work on aligning yourself with your core principles and your values. First, you got to know what you want to get what you want and what you need. So, I'm not sure. I kind of might have been all over the place, but people do just kind of survive in it versus thriving in it. And I feel that you can do both together. You can not only survive, because in a marriage or a relationship, you have the times where it's rocky and you're just trying to hold on. And then there's times where the sun is out, the rainbows, the stars, and now you're thriving because we have a better understanding of one another as a unit and as a couple together.
Yeah. No, man, you're not all over the place, man.
Not at all. Yeah.
I think, oftentimes I see it all the time, especially that survival, that doesn't allow you to express what you truly feel because you're scared of damaging this relationship or having to go. I mean, I try to create an understanding in people that says that if you have to do that, one, you're not trusting the fact of the person that you chose, right?
Mm-hmm.
This person, you chose them and they chose you, and the reasons go deeper than your performance as a man or a woman. A lot of people get so wrapped up in their performance, and like Jeannie said, it is justifiably part of our DNA, right? It's we have been conditioned in this country to survive and to have our performance valued above all. You
Yes.
know, am I performing as a woman, doing all the things that society says a woman is supposed to do? Am
Mm-hmm.
I performing as a man, doing all the things that society says I have to do? I have to, go make the bread. I have to put it down in the bedroom. As a woman, I gotta have 5 different wigs, hang from the chandelier. All of these things, you know what I mean? All of these things that that say that I'm performing, and if I don't do those things, then I'm not a whole man or I'm not a whole woman.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Meanwhile, regardless of what I feel, I need something else outside of that. I don't feel comfortable saying that or expressing that because, my man or woman might go get somebody else.
Right.
And that man or woman might go get somebody else because they don't know how to express what they need.
Mm-hmm.
You know
Or
what I'm
worse,
saying?
they might shut themselves off from me too. They might just shut themselves off, and
Right,
we'll be living in a space where of constant contention.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do y'all know? I mean, have y'all seen some of these couples that have been together like 40, 50 plus years and
Yes.
they just together?
Just together,
just
roommates,
not
literal
even in the same
roommates.
roommates. They sleep in the like they just together.
Yep.
Yeah.
Separate beds, separate
Can't stand each,
circles.
can't stand each other.
Cannot stand each other.
But they work in partnership. You do what you do over there, I do what I do over here, and it works, you know. So you know, what kind of work do you recommend for anybody to do? What kind of inner work to get themselves if they're not ready? Because everybody's not ready. I don't give a damn what you might think you're ready. Everybody not ready. You're not prepared for the partner you keep asking for and praying for, right?
Mhm.
Get them, it's gonna feel like a threat to you because you're not ready. I'm sometimes I gotta explain it to people, but it's the truth.
Yeah.
What kind of inner work do you recommend, Jeannie, for someone? Just basic surface, like you don't have to get too deep, but where do you start trying to work to get yourself ready?
Yeah, I mean, it depends honestly on what your anchors are. I think Dr. Seiko was talking about values earlier and understanding your values. I think it's very important for people to understand their values and what anchors them. So if I'm someone who is anchored by spirituality, and that exists in the church or that exists in the community and in the um, discussions of the universe and realigning with spirit journey, then that's where I would start as far as the work is concerned. Understanding what that means to me and understanding where I play into that. That is a great anchor. If I'm someone who believes in the cerebral and who believes in the science of attachment and those types of understandings, then I would start there with that research. I mean, start where you're aligned, and start with what you identify with the most naturally and the most authentically. Because for me to say, oh, blanketly, oh yeah, just start in therapy, start with the existential therapy, or start with cognitive behavioral therapy, or try a little bit of dialectical behavioral therapy. Like that means nothing if you're not anchored to those types of understandings. So
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I wanted. I wanted. You want to say something, Dr. Sekou?
Yeah. I just think number one, I'm really big on people spending some time alone to get to know themselves. Because there's a lot of the chatter, there's a lot of the noise, there's a lot of the distraction. People break up with one person, they get into a relationship with another person, so on and so forth. Spend a little time alone. There's nothing wrong with spending time alone to really getting to know who you are, what you want, what are your vices. Because if you don't know your vices, that's a major pitfall.
Mhm.
Meditation, I'm big into that, but I just tell people you got to spend that time alone to really get grounded, center, and of course, knowing what you want out of life. That's important. You got to figure out who who aligns with my vision. We don't have to think alike. We don't always have to do everything together, but we need to share a common value system so that we can build together. And that's just it. We have to have that foundation to be able to build upon another foundation and just take it in steps. But first, you got to know who you are by yourself so you can figure out who you are with someone else, but not getting lost into someone else.
Yeah. I mean that foundation you talking about building, like, um, that might be your answer to what I'm about to ask, Dr. Sekou. But what is like one truth that you wish the Black community would embrace about emotional intelligence and readiness? Like, what is the one thing that you just wish they would grab onto?
Hmm. That is a good one. I think I'm gonna have to sit with that for a second.
Dig it in.
A
Dig it
lot of different
in.
things firing off, so just let me sit with that, and I can address it later.
I fired it off on you. I fired it off on you. You got something for it, Jeannie?
Yeah, I do.
Mm-hmm.
But you do. You come up with these like huge questions. That are like,
Mm-hmm.
what? How can I like bring
Come on,
this
man.
down?
Hey, what we doing here?
How can
All
I
right.
Thank you.
synthesize this? Yeah, you're right. No, you're not wrong.
Okay, what we
They're
doing
all
here?
just I want the audience to know these are very high level questions that require in synthesizing them. They require quite a lot. I
Before
would
you
say
answer,
this.
Jeannie, I'm gonna say like this: what we do is hard, y'all. I really want y'all to understand. It's not easy. Like you don't have like you get these kind of stuff thrown at you like in session sometimes. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like
Yep.
these are like real life scenarios that pop up, and we have to commune with each other to
Mhm.
talk about how to combat some of these things sometimes. You know what I mean? So some
Yeah.
of these questions have come upon me, you know what I mean? And I don't actually have the answers for it, but like as a community, we can talk about it and try to figure out. And I mean, therapist community, we can talk about it, and Black therapist community, and
Yeah.
try to figure out some answers to some of this stuff, man. Because I'm listening to all the things that even in the chat that they saying. And I'm really tired of us struggling on certain things, man. This is we have been historically pained,
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
over and over and over again, bro. And it's just a cycle just repeating itself generation after generation after generation. And then we find new ways to internalize and hurt ourselves.
Yeah.
So the
Absolutely.
conversation has to start somewhere, right?
Yeah, and I think just distilling it down. I love what you just said, actually, and it sort of gave me a better sense of what I wanted to communicate. And I think that the thing that I would want the Black community to know about emotional intelligence as a whole is that this perfectionistic space that we get into related to enacting these types of things is what will be the drawback to us moving forward. So, in a moment, if you do not have the best response or reaction, I can gather it and I can repoise it at any point and I can find my center. I think if Black people knew that like I don't there are times when I can respond and react. Like I can react, excuse me, I can react and I can react poorly and I can react um exhibiting poor emotional control, emotional regulations, emotional intelligence. And in the same experience, I can regather myself and then respond intelligently. I think if they knew that they would take more risks, they would try more related to how they connect to other people. Because I think sometimes you get it wrong and then you write yourself off, or the other person also writes you off, and there's no grace. And sometimes when you're learning something new, I don't know about you, but I mean, I didn't come out the womb like with this level of self control. Like it took some time to cultivate. So you need grace.
Right. 100%.
Definitely, I wanted to come back to it. Had to think about it. that the one thing, if Black people understood that we're stronger together if we're emotionally in tuned, and it creates a certain type of synergy. So that's just one of the biggest things is when you're on the same wavelength with somebody, you can definitely go further and fly faster. And I like sports, so I'll make a sports analogy. When you look at the Chicago Bulls, they had a great team besides having Jordan, Pippen, and all the players. They had a great head coach, but they were all on the same wavelength. You had someone wild like Dennis Rodman, but the coach knew each person's personality and how to get the best out of them. So I think once you are in tune with your partner, emotionally, mentally, and on those levels, you can definitely get the best out of them and they can get the best out of you as we work together. So that's it.
No, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate y'all, expanding your thoughts on that. It's like, I'm always, I mean, most of my population is Black or people of color, and these type of questions be like, I know that we need to talk about these things in a real way because the lack of it, the more emotional intelligence that I gain, the more emotional wholeness that I gain, the more I'm able to see, what's lacking, and it's painful in a way. It's painful to see some of the things that are thought, and I don't blame, our community, because I have a bit of intelligence and I understand where this stuff comes from. So I know where it's rooted in, man. And I try not to get frustrated, but I do want to take as many opportunities as I can for us to be like, hey, this is the truth, because the biggest hurdle for us has been, for me, is that we have to unlearn so many true untruths.
Yeah.
We have to unlearn so much stuff, right?
Yeah.
That was necessary at one point in time for our survival. And there's some things that are still necessary for our survival today, but a lot of it's not rooted in the truth anymore. We have value outside of our performance, you know. Brother, you don't have to work. It's not, your value is not rooted in your performance. Okay, you are a human. Recognize yourself as human. Black girl, get some rest. You don't have to do everything. You don't got to do everything. You don't have to do it. All right.
Yeah.
So like these conversations are important for, some Black girl to say, look, if I don't do this, I'm not successful. That's not true.
Yeah.
That's not true, Black girl. You can rest.
Mhm.
As a matter of fact, you should prioritize rest. Right.
And I think that's so tough because
Mhm.
she's like, but who's going to do it?
That's who's gonna do it. Right.
And then when I did rest, this really bad thing happened where
Right.
things fell apart and nobody came to save me, Joe.
Yeah.
Nobody came to save me.
Right.
And it's happened over and over again. It is still a truth.
That's the truth. Yeah.
And
That's
that's I
Right.
think that is the hardest thing to hold space and compassion for. And it's the hardest thing to manage sometimes as well, is that these truths are still quite evident
yeah.
for many of us.
Right. And sometimes the truth is it just doesn't have to be done.
Exactly. It's not aligned. It's not aligned necessarily,
It
right?
doesn't need to be
Well, maybe
done.
if that's what you got to do that, it's
Right.
not aligned.
Right.
Yeah.
Black Lexicon, thank you, man. I appreciate that comment. I'm doing my best, bro. I'm doing my best. Let's see. Let's look at some of these comments. What we got here?
Ooh.
Why in this day and time men just can't handle their emotions? That's a good question. That is a good question because it is a problem. I'm not going to dismiss that like that's not a problem.
Yeah.
But the a large part of the problem is that their emotions have nowhere to go, right? So the emotion that you're more than likely witnessing and observing all the time is anger, right?
Mm.
Because that is a secondary emotion. It's usually covering up the fear, the sadness, and all the things that occur to these men on an everyday basis. And there's not many safe space. You'd be lucky. We're talking about emotionally whole women. You'll be lucky if you grab one of these women that understand what it means to actually sit and listen and take in a man's emotions,
Mm.
um, and not throw them back in his face or, comment on his performance or demand more performance out of him. These things, I mean, these two people really are having a hard time finding each other. So why can't a man just can't handle his emotions? Because one, like Dr. Sekou said earlier, it hasn't been modeled for him. Where's he going to learn that from? I think we got a generation of men now that are doing their best to teach younger men how to do that. I think this is a good era for it. But, if you're 35 and up, where you learn that from?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where you learn that from? So that's where we're at. We're doing our best to get there, niche. But there's some work to be done. I won't lie to you about that.
Absolutely. I mean, I think also it's often it's hard for them because their emotions are revelatory of truths that they cannot face. That it is very like our emotions are a barometer, right? They're a barometer to our truths and to our current experience. And for some men, when they are in emotional crisis or they're in a crash out, as the kids say, it is revelatory of the level of autonomy that they feel over their world and over their space. If I'm emotionally disconnected, if I'm emotionally overwhelmed, I'm powerless to the state around me. Maybe I don't, again, it's revelatory of I don't know the answers. It's revelatory of I'm not capable. It's revelatory of I just don't feel capable. I just don't feel good enough. And so those emotions coming in, I'm bound to suppress them. I'm bound to push them down. I don't want that in my face.
100%. 100%. Read this comment. In a world where so many of us were taught to protect, prove, perform, emotional intelligence teaches us that the real power is in presence. That's another thing that I'm trying to get people to understand. Your value is not in performance. The power. I agree with you. I don't want to mispronounce your name, brother, but I see you, Dr. DeBose's brother. So I appreciate you joining us, man. Dr. DeBose, I really respect him. So I think that's your brother. So I appreciate you for joining us today.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So yeah, man, I do want to talk about some of these truths also, because we're gonna wrap it up soon. But I as a black therapist, I just wish our community would embrace that the emotional intelligence is like, for one, it's not a talent, y'all. It's a skill. Like you can acquire it, right? It's something that you can acquire. You can actually work and do the work to gain this thing. That's part of it. And also, it's not about perfection. We're not asking anybody to be perfect. It's not knowing all the right things to say. That's not emotional intelligence. It's about the courage to like sit with your own discomfort and have these hard conversations. That's can you sit back and have an uncomfortable conversation without wanting to scream or run off, And can you do it without being ashamed? Can you listen without becoming defensive all the time, like feeling like you need to defend yourself, or can you do it without dismissing your partner's feelings? Like this is what it is. It's about eliminating all that generational pain that we're talking about, all the miscommunication, all the avoidance that you've picked up over the years. You know what I mean? That you've been passed down from generation to generation as a way to protect yourself, as a woman from being hurt, as a man from being called soft. That's what we got to normalize. Like, being ready for somebody doesn't mean that you have to be completely healed. You don't got to be whole. I'm saying that, but because healing is not a destination, right? It's
Ongoing journey.
it's a journey. You're always on it. You know what I mean? You're always on it.
Constantly.
That's what I want to get across, man. It's like, we associate strength with being stoic and suppressing and pushing through. Just push through. Meanwhile, you breaking underneath.
Damaging.
Damaging.
Further, yeah.
And I say that, Jeannie, about what men associate their strength with.
Yeah.
Do you know like the adjectives that women are hiding behind? Like I said, men are hiding behind stoicism and suppression. What adjectives are women hiding behind to protect themselves? What do you think?
I think women hide behind the cerebral. We have become a culture of overthinkers, having an over analytical nature, attaching meaning to things that we do not need to attach meaning to, investigating things that don't necessarily need investigation. I think women have been hidden behind distraction. And certainly that they've hidden behind accomplishments. I mean, especially Black women, we are amongst the highest educated individuals in this world right now, in this nation presently, right?
Accomplishment, right? Are y'all hiding behind accomplishment? A lot of
Oh,
women.
absolutely hiding behind those pedigrees.
Yeah.
I was a woman who that was a part of work I needed to shed, not for the sake that it was hindering necessarily my relationships. It was hindering my relationship to myself, right? This idea of like I couldn't separate my self-worth from my accolades, from my accomplishments. I thought to myself there was a lot that I could heal within myself that needed to be there needed to be tangible dividends of my effort. And if I didn't see those tangible dividends, then I wasn't worthwhile. And I counsel a lot of women who have that experience. If they don't have that ring, they don't have that child, if they don't have those degrees on the wall, or if they don't have the degrees on the wall and they don't have the man and the child, then they're a whole mess, right? They're not good enough. They're not worthwhile enough. Like it's yes, accomplishment is definitely something I think women are hiding behind at this point in time. What else would I say? This is going to be probably not. People aren't going to be happy. They're going to be mad for this. But I think women are also hiding behind hypersexuality. Hypersexuality that is both hoisted upon them,
Talk about it.
as well as because it has been hoisted upon them for such a long time, they have started to internalize and utilize that as a way in with relationships, and it exists as this very distorted, transactional, this very distorted transactional entity where it's always been and will always be a method for shared intimacy and connection. It's been used in ways that just I find they are very much keeping us apart as a community.
100%.
Yeah.
And I want to close out, but I want to ask you a follow up. Say, Dr. Sekou, off of what Jeannie just said, because that hypersexuality is a good point. Are men suffering from that too? Are we dealing with our own? We're being hypersexualized all the time. Talk
Yep.
about it.
Yeah, of course, it's at an early age that happens for men, as far as how you're judged as far as being a man. You gotta sleep with the most women. You gotta get as many numbers. You don't even get to really learn about women. All you know is you're trying to get between their legs.
Mm-hmm.
And with that in mind, that doesn't make or prove what a man is. And that's a big part that they're missing. But a lot of that comes from being a part of a culture to fit in and not be that odd man out. So you feel the pressure of, hey, I got to be this type of guy. I got to be the smoothest guy on campus. So it equates to me having X amount of women and not really being mentally and emotionally mature to really know that I ain't got nothing to prove. Like if I'm that man, these women gonna recognize whatever it is. But definitely hypersexualized. Turn on IG, whatever it is, you scroll through things, you seeing women shaking their behind and men are liking all the pictures, and then you see a real woman, then some of these guys don't even know how to talk to them.
I don't even know what to do with
Yeah.
it.
No
Don't
idea.
even know what to do with it.
No clue. No, and they're
What's she doing reading this book?
right.
Ew.
Right. And sometimes it doesn't even come from a negative place or a societally pressured space. Sometimes it comes from spaces I don't even know how to relate inside my emotions. I don't even know how to connect with her and tell her and show her that I love her other than to have sex with her.
Yep.
I don't know. I communicate better when I'm in bed with her. I'm happy with her seeing me actually naked. I'm more happy with her seeing me naked than me being naked emotionally and vulnerably in front of her. I know how to do that. I know my body knows how to do that.
Right.
Mentally, I can't do that. Emotionally, I cannot do that.
That's why
Women the same way. If I can make him happy, if I can satisfy him, he'll keep on coming back to me. He will never leave me.
That's right. That's right.
It's that WAP culture.
When that blood pressure go up and that thing start working, y'all slipping into depression.
You're like, what do we do now?
Popping them blue pills and
Blue diamonds.
sticking the needles of testosterone in your ass trying to get right. Yeah, because you don't know how to function beyond that performance. You know what I mean? Like doesn't mean you're not a man anymore because you can't perform. And really, honestly, it's just a natural thing that happens.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? To not every man, but it happens, right? Can't do nothing about it. Listen, I want y'all to give y'all closing thoughts about anything that y'all kind of want to leave the people with and tell the people where they can find you, please. So, Jeannie, you first.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm Jeannie Johnson, CEO and founder for Love and Psych, and you can find me on Instagram for Love and Psych. You can find me on Facebook for Love and Psych, or if you want to connect, just to connect, I'm Jeannie Johnson. No funny business, though. It's all friendly. That's it. I have a website, www.forloveandpsych.com, if you want to schedule an appointment with me, meet with me one-to-one for coaching, for education on meditation practices, on ritualizing a wellness routine that helps you align your heart and your mind. I'm here for you. Meet up with me, talk to me. Email's the same, info@forloveandpsych.com. Send me an email. All good. And I think, do you want me to do takeaways as well, Joe?
Yes, please do takeaways.
Just related to emotional intelligence, I think if I'm speaking just directly to men, please have the courage to give yourself the compassion that you need to open up the way that you need to with those around you. And I would say if you're going to start to practice this skill set, do so with someone who has a lot of grace for you, who feels a strong sense of alignment with you, and who can hold you when you are practicing and not getting something right the first time. And so if that's not your partner, it's a teacher or a mentor or a colleague, keep it no funny business, but stick to what's going to be good for you. As to women, I think honoring in every moment and holding compassion for the type of woman who was hardened and didn't practice the emotional intelligence that we're looking for is super important. Please take the time out to do that before you start to push for a new version of yourself, because one version has to die for the other to live. And let's have a nice, lovely funeral for the old version. Be kind.
Okay, put that on the t-shirt.
Okay.
Whoever's in the back, no funny business. Put that on the t-shirt.
Love it.
Funny business.
I'm so old. The kids are like, what did she say? How old is she?
Funny business.
Business guys.
Go ahead, Dr. Sekou. Give us your takeaways and tell the people where they can find you, brother.
Yeah. So number one, I think it's important to assess what your personal values are. What are your goals? What are your core values? What are you trying to build? And understand that it's okay to take time for yourself to figure out what do you want. I know sometimes guys get into relationships, sometimes they feel pressured. Sometimes with women, they feel pressured from outsiders about being married, babies and stuff. It's okay. Take time yourself to really get to know who you are and build with someone that aligns with your core values and your foundational purposes. And as far as just in general, when we talk about emotional intelligence, folks, don't be afraid to do the emotional labor that's required, because it's all mental work. Just like you do something physical, this is just a lot of thinking and really figuring out what do I really want at the end of the day. And it's better to make a good choice than make a bad choice and have regrets and all kind of bumps down the road. So really put some thought into this before you put thought into building with someone. Where y'all can find me at, I'm on Instagram, Dr. Sekou Fraser, and also on TikTok, Dr. Sekou Fraser. Sage Therapy Group, you can shoot me an email, sekou@Sage Therapy Group. And I do marriage and couples counseling, all of that good stuff. So I appreciate y'all's time as well too.
Thank you, good brother. Thank you, good brother. Thank you, good brother. Yeah, man, go follow these people on Instagram, and they're always putting out content and things like that. You know, saying dropping free gems for y'all. If you're not doing that already, please do that. You know, you can go to my website, and all my social medias are linked there. I just revamped that thing too, so I want everybody to go look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, I know Jeannie, you're in the process of revamping yours, but
Yeah, yeah.
it just got updated. It's brand new, looking real good. So I want y'all to go check that out and go tap in with my social medias, man. And make sure if you haven't done so, if you're watching right now, subscribe to my YouTube channel. Vulnerability is the new sexy. I don't know whatever channels y'all are watching this on, but I always want y'all to be tuned in to my channel because I do other things besides this that show up all over the place that pop up on my channel. So go subscribe to that. But I really appreciate wherever you're listening from, that you're here and engaged in this conversation. I'm not trying to get popular, y'all. I'm always just trying to expand this conversation because I know it's necessary. I really believe in that, that we can heal and we can heal and we can do more than what we've been doing. And as we close this conversation, I want to keep reminding y'all that emotional intelligence is a skill. Okay. It's not just a relationship skill though. It's a survival skill. Like, so if you're trying to survive, how can you do it without that? Your survival skill, your survival instinct is telling you to run away from that, but I'm telling you to run towards it because it's deeply connected to our history as Black people. And generations of us, both men and women, have been forced into emotional suppression, hyper independence, being guarded, and all as a means of just trying to survive this crazy system of systematic oppression and racism and all this generational trauma that we get passed down. And we've been taught that showing emotion is some kind of weakness. And, we're going to show up in this world um, that will exploit us. And, that profits off of silencing us. You know what I mean? Like, and all the like self-sacrifice, that are the cost of like just love and protection. So I want to leave y'all with the truth, man, that, surviving is the truth is, those survival strategies they were necessary at one point. I'm not going to lie to you, but they're not the way for us to like grow forward. It's not what we're not there right now. And our ability to name our feelings and hold space for one another, like that is, how and create relationships, where vulnerability isn't punished, but it's protected. That's where we're going to grow. So being ready for if you come across an emotionally intelligent partner, being ready starts with being honest with yourself, about this journey that you've been on of survival and what you still need to unlearn in that journey. You know what I mean? I don't want to get long-winded, but I just want y'all to understand that when it feels uncomfortable, we got to choose to show up differently than what we've been doing because we like believe that we we believe that we deserve more than the struggle love.
Right.
we deserve peace and joy and emotional freedom.
Yeah.
So, if you sit with today's conversation, I'm gonna ask you just to ask yourself, like, am I ready to not just want an emotionally intelligent partner, but to become one?
Yes. Yes.
Are you willing to create the kind of love that breaks these cycles that I just ran through and hold space for, every piece of your partner, so you can grow and heal and redefine, what love, especially Black love, can be. So, hey, I'm here. I'm here for you. I'm here with you. And we're gonna have this panel every second Tuesday of the month, y'all. We coming with these people have agreed And I'm saying you've agreed to be here second Tuesday of a month.
Yes, sir.
I want y'all to
And
come.
don't let Joe play small. He does want to be popular. We do want to be popular so that the message can get to an expansive audience. So you thought I was going to let that go? No, definitely not, sir.
I want to be popular, but it's not the purpose, is what I'm saying. So yeah, I want because I want the conversation to be bigger, like you said.
All right.
So, and you know, I want to grow popular with y'all. I really want to turn this into something where, you know, we really out here educating people and spreading this emotional intelligence, and you know, providing emotional wealth for our community, because it's not just about, you know, that's what it's about. That's the mission. Because it's a better world when Black people are emotionally whole. Period. It's a better world altogether. All right.
Mm-hmm.
All right, y'all. Listen, love y'all.
Love you.
Good night. You know, and in 2 weeks, I'm gonna come back with a panel of men. But every second Tuesday, we got a panel of therapists, and we're gonna be talking emotional wellness. And y'all got a slide in my DMs. If y'all got topics you wanted me to hit, you know, I'll be struggling sometimes to come up with these topics. So send them to me. I'll be glad to accept those. All right.
All right.
Good night, y'all.
Good night. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Right.